The phone rang 6 times. No answer. Ronan Devon set it down on the desk without blinking. He did not call again. Men like him did not call twice. But 60 seconds later, his hand was back on that phone. Still nothing. Cale Mercer had not missed a single day of work in 4 years. Not when the snowstorms shut down half the city. Not when 2 of Ronan's rivals made threats that put everyone in the building on edge. Not even the morning after Ronan threw an entire quarterly report across the room and told the staff to get out of his sight. Cale stayed. Cale always stayed. So this silence, this particular silence on a Thursday afternoon with a board meeting in 30 minutes, it did not sit right. Where is he? Ronan asked without looking up. His head of security, Marcus Dade, stood at the doorway with his arms folded. Called in sick, maybe. Nobody's heard from him since this morning. Cale doesn't call in sick. First time for everything. Ronan said nothing. He moved to the window and looked out at the city below. 42 floors of glass and steel between him and the street. His wedding was 26 days away. The alliance between his organization and the Arden family was locked in. Everything was running exactly the way it was supposed to run. So why did his chest feel like something was already broken? Hi viewers. Have you ever had a feeling deep in your gut that something was terribly wrong, even when everything around you looked completely fine? Drop a yes or no in the comments right now. I want to know. He pulled up his messages. There was one from Cale, sent at 7:14 that morning, before Ronan had even gotten out of bed. 3 words. Just 3. If anything happens to me, protect him. Ronan read it twice. Then a 3rd time. Him. Who was him? He grabbed his jacket off the back of the chair. Marcus straightened up fast. Cancel the meeting, Ronan said. Sir, the board is all ready. I said cancel it. He was already walking out the door. The GPS put Cale's building 40 minutes outside the city center. Ronan did not say a word the entire drive. Marcus rode beside him. 2 more men followed in a second vehicle. Nobody asked questions. Nobody pushed. The neighborhood came into view slowly. Cracked sidewalks. A corner store with a broken sign. A playground that looked like it had not seen fresh paint in a decade. Ronan watched it all slide past the window and felt something shift behind his ribs. Just a door with a dented handle and a lobby that smelled like old paint. He checked the unit number from his phone and climbed 2 flights of stairs. The hallway on the 2nd floor was quiet. Too quiet. He found the apartment near the end of the corridor. And stopped. The door was not closed. It sat slightly open. Maybe 2 inches. Like someone had left in a hurry. Or like someone had pushed through without caring what they left behind. Ronan did not move for a moment. His hand did not go to the door right away. He stood there, reading the silence, the way men in his line of work learn to read everything, because sometimes what you could not hear was louder than what you could. Then he pushed the door open, and froze. The couch was on its side. Papers everywhere. Scattered across the floor like someone had swept an entire shelf clean in one motion. A lamp knocked over, its bulb shattered in a ring of white glass. The small kitchen table pushed hard into the wall, one of its chairs split straight down the middle. Ronan stepped inside slowly. His eyes moved the way they always moved in a room that had already gone wrong, corner to corner, low to high, checking for what was still a threat and what was already past one. There was blood near the far wall. Not a puddle, a streak, like someone had been dragged or had caught themselves on the way down. He did not speak. Marcus appeared behind him and went still. Ronan crouched near the center of the room. Phone lay there. Screen cracked clean across. He did not touch it. He moved his eyes to the bookshelf that had been toppled, and that is when he saw them. Drawings. Child-sized. crayon on construction paper, a yellow sun with too many points, a house with a triangle roof, a stick figure in a suit with the name Unco Kale written across the bottom in uneven block letters. Ronan picked one up. Then he saw the photographs, pinned on a small corkboard that had fallen face up near the window. A dozen photos, maybe more, all of the same boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Dark hair, serious eyes that looked a little too knowing for a kid that small. In one photo, the boy was laughing. Kale had his arm around him, looking at the camera like he was not sure he deserved to be that happy. In another, the boy was asleep. Kale sat beside him reading, not looking at the camera at all. Ronan stared at that one the longest. He had known Kale for 4 years. 4 years of daily contact. Schedules, meetings, late nights, dozens of conversations. And he had never once heard a word about this child. Not once. He turned the photograph over. On the back, in Kale's clean handwriting, Theo, age 5, the only thing that matters. Ronan set it down. His jaw was tight. The boy in those photos was gone too. Marcus ran the name quietly. Within the hour, they had a thread. Kale's younger brother, Damon Mercer, had died 3 years earlier. The official record said accident. The real story was more complicated than that. It always was in circles like this. What remained after his death was a child. His son, Theodore Mercer, 5 years old at the time. No other guardian listed on the record. No living relatives who stepped forward. No one else willing to take him, except Kale. Kale had taken the boy without asking anyone for help. Without telling a single person at work. He had moved into this apartment. Smaller, cheaper, closer to a school that had a program for kids who needed extra support, and had quietly restructured his entire life around a child that most people did not even know existed. He had turned down 3 separate job offers in the past 2 years. 2 of them paid nearly double what Ronan was giving him. Ronan sat in the car outside the building and read through the details Marcus handed him. Each page felt heavier than the last. Sometimes the strongest people hide their struggles because they believe nobody would care. He thought about that now. He thought about how many times Kale had stayed late. How many times Kale had absorbed the chaos of the office without complaint. How many times Ronan had walked past him without once asking, not once, how he was actually doing. A witness on the 2nd floor confirmed what Ronan had already started to understand. 2 men, armed. They had come in through the stairwell around 6 in the morning. The neighbor heard shouting, then silence. By the time he looked out into the hall, a black vehicle was already pulling away from the curb. He saw the boy too, wrapped in Kale's jacket, not crying, just holding on. Ronan closed the folder. His hands were steady. They were always steady. But something underneath the steadiness was pulling tight, the way a rope pulls tight right before it snaps. He looked up at Marcus. Who knew where he lived? Marcus met his eyes. That's the part that doesn't sit right, sir. Kale kept his home address completely off the company records. Whoever found him, he paused, had help from the inside. Ronan did not sleep that night. He sat in his office with every piece of information his team could pull, laid out across the desk in a map of connections he did not want to be seeing. Financial records, employment history, names, dates. Kale's file was longer than Ronan had expected. Before coming to work for the Devon organization, Kale had applied to 3 other firms. Senior-level positions. The kind of roles that came with a real salary, a real title, and a life that did not involve watching over a man who barely looked at him twice. He had turned them all down. There were follow-up notes in the file. Not rejections, withdrawals. Kale had pulled his own applications before the offers could come through. One of the hiring managers had followed up afterward, confused. He had written in his notes, "Applicant was more than qualified. Reason given for withdrawal. I still believe in Ronan Devon." Ronan read that line 3 times. He set the paper down and stared at the wall. For years of proximity, and he had never once asked Cale why he stayed. He had assumed loyalty was just a feature of the job. He had assumed the quiet dedication was professional. He had not let himself consider, that it might have been something else entirely. He stood up and walked to the window. The city was dark from up here, just lights and distance. His team had been running down the leads on the kidnapping all evening. Most of the threads went cold fast. Whoever had planned this knew exactly how to clean up after themselves. But one trail did not disappear completely. One name kept appearing at the edge of different financial transactions. Transactions that moved through channels Ronan recognized. Channels that connected directly to the family he was about to marry into. He turned that over slowly. Then his phone rang. Marcus. His voice was flat the way it only got when the news required composure to deliver. "We found a connection," Marcus said. "The men who took Cale, they were contracted out. The money trail goes back 22 months. Whoever set this in motion started planning it long before anything happened." Ronan said nothing. "Sir." A pause. "The origin point on the payments traces back to the Arden family. The room did not change. The lights did not flicker. The city outside kept moving exactly the way it always moved. But something in Ronan Devon shifted. Quietly, completely, and without any way back. His wedding was 26 days away, and the trail leading to Cale led straight through his future husband's family. The name came up 3 times before anyone said it out loud. Ronan's team had been pulling threads all night, phone pings, financial transfers, movements logged through the organization's own internal network. Most of the data was clean, too clean. Whoever had arranged the kidnapping had used cutouts and cash drops and routed everything through layers designed to fall apart under pressure. But pressure was the one thing Ronan Devon knew how to apply. By morning, the board was narrowed to 12 names. By noon, it was 4. By 3 in the afternoon, Marcus walked into the room and set a single printed page on the desk without saying a word. Ronan looked at it. One name circled at the top. Idris Arden. Not a foot soldier. Not a hired contractor. A man with access to the Devon organization's internal files, because Ronan had granted that access himself 6 months ago, as a gesture of good faith ahead of the Alliance merger. That access had been used exactly once. To pull Cale Mercer's emergency contact form. The only document in the entire system that listed Cale's real home address. Ronan stood up slowly. The room was quiet the way rooms get quiet when everyone in it understands that what just happened cannot be taken back. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with a warning. Sometimes it walks through the front door wearing the face of someone you trusted and signs its name on your paperwork and sits at your table and waits. "Find me everything on Idris Arden," Ronan said. "Every transaction. Every call. Every man he's moved in the last 6 months." Marcus nodded once and left. Ronan turned back to the window. The trail was no longer cold. And it did not lead to an enemy. It led straight to the family he was about to merge his entire empire with. Ronan did not confront anyone. Not yet. He moved quietly. That was the part people always underestimated about him. They saw the power and assumed he was loud with it. He was not. He had built everything he had by watching first and moving second. And right now, watching was telling him more than any confrontation could. Within 48 hours, his team had assembled the full picture. Cale had stumbled onto something 14 months earlier. A set of financial records that passed through Ronan's office during the early merger talks with the Arden family. Numbers that did not line up. Shell accounts. Transfers routed through 3 different countries before landing somewhere they should not have been. Cale had flagged it internally, quietly, professionally, the way he did everything. He had written a single memo, marked it confidential, and placed it directly in Ronan's inbox. Ronan had never read it. He found the memo now, buried under 18 months of unread correspondence, still sealed in the original envelope with Cale's handwriting on the front. He opened it. 3 pages. Detailed. Careful. Every number sourced and cross-referenced. Cale had not threatened anyone. He had not taken the information anywhere. He had simply handed it to the one man he trusted and waited. And the one man he trusted had left it sitting unopened for over a year. The Arden family had found out about the memo through their own source inside the organization. They had not known what Cale had done with it. They assumed he was a threat. They moved to eliminate that threat before the wedding could complicate things. They had torn apart an innocent man's home and taken a child off a stairwell at 6 in the morning because Ronan had not read his mail. That landed differently than anything else. Pause on that. The location came in 2 hours later. An abandoned property 40 miles outside the city, registered under a name that had not existed for 11 years. Cale was there, and he was running out of time. Ronan took 8 men. No sirens. No announcement. They moved in 3 vehicles, lights off, the last mile covered on foot through a stretch of dead grass and gravel that crunched under boots in the dark. The building was a converted warehouse. 2 guards at the front. 1 on the roof. Ronan's team neutralized all 3 before a single door opened. Inside 4 rooms. 3 empty. The 4th was not. Cale was on the floor against the far wall. Wrists bound above his head to an exposed pipe. Head down. Not moving. Ronan crossed the room in 4 steps and dropped to one knee. Cale. Nothing. Cale. Look at me. Slow. Too slow. Cale's head came up. His left eye was swollen nearly shut. A cut across his jaw. His shirt torn at the collar. He had been there long enough that the cold had settled into him. His hands were pale, his breathing shallow and uneven. But his eyes, when they finally focused, they were still him, still sharp, still watching, still carrying something Ronan could not name and had never thought to ask about. The binding came off. Ronan's hands were steady doing it. He did not let them shake. Not here. Cale did not speak right away. He looked past Ronan, scanning the room, moving his eyes to every corner, every exit, every face that was not Ronan's, searching. And then, in a voice that came out rough and barely above a whisper, "Is Theo safe?" That was it. Not who did this. Not where were you. Not why did it take this long. Just the boy. Always the boy. Ronan's throat tightened in a way he had not felt since he was very young, and the world was still capable of surprising him. "He's safe," Ronan said. "He's already with my men. He's okay." Cale closed his eyes, and for the first time since Ronan had walked through that door, he exhaled. The wedding was cancelled at 6:47 in the morning. No press release. No formal statement. Ronan made 1 call to his attorney, 1 call to the venue, and 1 call to the head of the Arden family, and that last call lasted less than 90 seconds. By noon, the alliance was over. By evening, 2 of the Arden family's financial operations had been frozen through channels Ronan had spent 15 years quietly building access to. Nobody outside the organization knew how it happened. Nobody needed to. The fallout was immediate. 3 other allied families pulled back. 2 scheduled meetings were canceled without explanation. The careful structure Ronan had spent the better part of 2 years assembling cracked apart in less than a week. He let it crack. He sat in his office on the 4th day after the rescue and looked at everything he had built. The alliances, the reach, the carefully arranged marriage that was supposed to double his power. And understood for the first time that he had been building the wrong things. The most painful truths are the ones you had every chance to see. He had walked past Kale every single day. He had taken the quiet competence and the steady presence and the loyalty that never announced itself, and he had treated it all like furniture, like something that was simply there. The memo sat on his desk, still 3 pages, still detailed, still carrying Kale's careful handwriting on every line. He had left it sealed for over a year. He went to the hospital where Kale was recovering. Room 214. He knocked. He went in. Theo keeps asking when we're going home. Not, I forgive you. Not, it's okay. Not, we can start over. Just Theo. Just the next practical thing. Ronan nodded slowly and looked at the floor. He had canceled the wedding. He had dismantled the alliance. He had done everything a powerful man could do after getting everything wrong. And none of it, not one single piece of it, had given him back the one thing that actually mattered. 3 months passed, then 4. Kale recovered. Quietly, the way he did everything. He attended his follow-up appointments without complaint. He got Theo back into his routine. Same school, same schedule, same small rituals that kids need when the world has been turned upside down. He did not return to the Devon organization. He did not answer the 2 calls Ronan made in the first weeks after the hospital. He did not respond to the letter Marcus delivered by hand to the new address. A better building, a safer street, the rent covered anonymously in a way that Kale had to have known was Ronan but accepted without comment. He was not angry. He was just gone. And that, the absence without rage, was somehow the hardest thing Ronan had ever sat with. Power could not fix this. Money could not fix this. The empire that had felt like everything for 15 years felt like an empty room now. Ronan kept working. He kept moving. He made decisions and held meetings and ran his organization the way it needed to be run. But something was different. He started reading every document that crossed his desk. Every single one. 6 months after the rescue, a postcard arrived at Ronan's office. No return address. Postmarked from a city 2 states away. On the front, a photograph of a skyline Ronan did not recognize. On the back, 3 words. We're doing fine. That was all. No signature. No name. But tucked inside the envelope, folded in half, a small piece of construction paper. A drawing in crayon. A yellow sun with too many points. A house with a triangle roof. 2 stick figures standing side by side, one tall and one small. Underneath, in the uneven block letters of a child who was learning to write, Me and Uncle Kale. Ronan set it down on the desk. He did not move for a long time. Love is not proven by power. It is proven by presence. The people who stand beside us quietly, day after day without asking to be seen, are often carrying more than we ever stop to notice. And sometimes the greatest regret in life is not an enemy's betrayal. It is realizing what you had, only after it walks out the door. He turned the postcard over one more time, looked at the postmark, looked at the 3 words. There was no address to write back to, no number to call, just a drawing from a child who had learned, in the hardest way possible, that the people who love you will protect you even when they are the ones who are hurt. Whether Ronan ever found them again, that answer does not live in this story. Some things are left where they belong, in the silence between what was and what could have been. If the story moved something in you, if you have ever overlooked someone who was standing right beside you, drop a comment below and let the community know. Your words might be exactly what someone reading this today needs to hear. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story on this channel. Every story here is built to make you feel something real, and to remind you that the people who stay quietly beside you are often the ones worth fighting to keep. Share this one with someone who needs to hear it today.